Maybe
so
you
nobody
should.
gets in trouble. Welcome to Sachs Realty's Tuesday Night Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. Each week, we deliver expert information enabling you to make better informed decisions while keeping more money in your pocket. If you're interested in real estate, this is your show. Hey guys, welcome to our Tuesday Night Live. Always glad to spend Tuesdays with you all, and I already see a lot of the comments that are coming through. We're seeing some of our old timers, and I'm not referring to the age. I'm just saying that, like Jeff M and Brad. It's always good to see you, Brad. Yeah, we got some new ones. Todd H has been around too. Todd, we appreciate you. So it's good to see you guys. That you're some of you I haven't seen in a little while. I haven't seen your your live chat come up. So
It's nice. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day in Maryland.
it's a beautiful day. Snow tomorrow.
Snow tomorrow.
That's what they're saying anyway.
I know.
We're going to talk about a lot tonight. We're going to go into some of the issues that are threatening change in the real estate industry. And as we have covered on the show before about the lawsuits, there's a lot more that have been filed. We'll go over some of that. And we really want to talk about some of the implications that we see in the industry, or at least from my own personal perspective, of what that means for buyers and sellers, whatever the outcomes, if anything changes at all. So we'll address some of those things. We have some articles, some recent publications from the DOJ, from the lawsuit filings that we're going to cover tonight. Also, I want to point everyone to our poll. If you have not checked out our poll, Joe, you can just pull it up real quick if you don't mind. Love to see more votes on this, and we'll cover it as we get into midway through the show. But the question is, home buyer brokers, how should they be paid? Should they be paid from the listing broker, which is a lot of what we see, and what a lot of these issues seem to be stemming from with the lawsuits? Should they be paid by the seller directly? So should a buyer's broker negotiate directly with the seller, and should they be paid by the buyer directly? And we kind of wonder what that would look like, as buyers really don't have a lot of money that we see. We see barely having enough, a couple $1,000s in the bank, and many of these buyers. So should they have to pay for their own representation, or should buyer brokers not be paid at all? So I see already we do have some that think that agents maybe shouldn't be paid, the buyer's agents. So it'd be interesting. The way that it used to be back in the day was everyone worked for the seller. And we'll look at some dates of when the Department of Justice first started looking at the National Association of Realtors, because there was a lot of things that really have changed through the years. And but they're still, I don't think that the DOJ is happy with the way that it is right now. And so the DOJ has been kind of adding their 2 cents along the way. And so it's interesting, for argument's sake, to kind of ask you what you think. And we have some agents that are also on, in the back room here, that we will be bringing in from different parts of the country to talk about what's happening in their market. We still want to cover that as we're going, kind of rolling into spring. We are seeing a very unusual start to spring, and buyers are still very emotional in the process, despite everything that has that we've learned from the past several years of price appreciation and lack of affordability. We're still seeing that the buyers are very much attached to the transaction emotionally, and that I understand, because it's a home, but that also sort of feeds into more exuberance. And as a result, we're seeing that there is a stubborn sort of pull on wanting to keep prices elevated. And one of the things I want to kind of discuss in detail is the role that mainstream media is having, because every time we turn around, we're hearing them pumping the narrative that home prices are expected to rise, home prices are expected to rise. And I think you could say that and put it out there as much as you want, but what that does is it sort of infiltrates the minds of the buyers to where they feel that they still have to, overvalue the home in order to get it. And we're seeing that though that practice is taking place, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because what we're seeing in a lot of these multiple offer situations it's just 2 offers or 3 offers. Now, of course, you have hot properties that are priced really low that get a swarm of activity and 10 offers, but it's not the 25 and 30 offers. The agents don't need to develop spreadsheets to present the offers to their sellers. But anyway, Melissa, give us some updates. What's going on in your world?
Yeah. Happy to do so. Happy to see you all this evening. And I actually see some of you that I've talked to this week so far, and it's only Tuesday. But I continue to help all of you. I continue to link you with agents across our country. I continue to get you in touch with lenders in our referral network that are going to be able to set you up for success and be financially ready to be able to put your offers in and get ready to purchase. A lot of you are buyers, but a lot of you are sellers too. And what I'm seeing firsthand, I just had a conversation with a gentleman yesterday who said what we're doing is counterintuitive. And I said, quite the contrary. Maybe it seems that way, that we are having people think before they go ahead and move forward impulsively in a real estate transaction. But I mean, this is our job. This is our job to be taking the time, doing the history, looking what has been going on with the property in the past years, and has it been listed before? Has it gone under contract? What is going on? So we don't find this to be a waste of our time at all. And it's to build trust and to have you be able to have us help you and lead you in the right direction. A lot of you have had situations with agents that you have, hired to be representing you. And I've heard many times, that they're just opening doors and putting you in a search and not taking the time to really dig into certain properties and get information for you. So that is what I'm doing. And I'm, again, putting myself out there. I am here to help. I find building these relationships with you all is incredibly important. The best way to get in touch, if you need this type of help and assistance, is to continue to use the TS at Sachs Realty email. I monitor that. That is direct communication to Todd, but I do monitor his email multiple times a day. So please reach out. I'm really happy to connect with all of you and to be able to guide you and assist.
Yeah, I get like 400 or 500 emails a day.
I know.
And
I know you do.
is a lot. We love the fact that you guys are sending in your questions, and we do have an agent network. We have agents that are lined up here tonight that are, wanting to help you. If you need representation, we're not trying to take you from an existing agent, but we are seeing where a lot of people are frustrated. So we'll kind of dive in. So the first thing I want to do here is before we bring Pia in Northern Virginia and talk about what's happening in her market, I want to cover what is going on for those of you that may not know about the lawsuits. We are now starting to see where even our clients that are inquiring with us are asking a lot of questions and really analyzing contracts a lot differently. I think that's a great thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I've always said we're not talking about commissions and fees on the show. In fact, that the only thing that I've really wanted to get out there is that commissions are negotiable, and that the transparency that we're seeing as a result of what's going on. No matter whether you're an agent, you don't believe it, it's right or whatever. I think that what we are learning is that the public is becoming more educated, and their desire to really dive in and figure what all this means is it's refreshing. So obviously, I'm not an attorney. I'm a real estate broker here in Maryland. I do try and keep my pulse on what's going on around the country. But let's talk about the lawsuit. So this is a fact sheet here that is actually, let me just kind of get back to it's not looking like it's giving me where this is coming from, but this is from the DOJ. Joe, correct? I don't know why at the top of my screen it's not. I think the highlighter program has stopped working or changed the whatever. But let's just kind of go over this. So this is a fact sheet from the DOJ, I'm pretty sure. Is that correct, Joe? Yeah. Yes. All right. So here we go. Overview. What is the lawsuit about? NAR has promulgated a series of rules, policies, and practices that have been widely adopted by its members, which have resulted in a lessening competition among real estate brokers to the detriment of American home buyers. These rules, policies, and practices include prohibiting multiple listing services, as you all hear a lot, the acronym MLS, from disclosing to prospective buyers the amount of commission that a buyer broker will earn if the buyer purchases a home listed on the MLS, allowing buyer brokers to mislead buyers into thinking that the buyer broker services are free. And I want to talk about that. Enabling buyer brokers to filter MLS listings based on the level of buyer broker commission offered to exclude homes with lower commissions from considerations by potential home buyers, and then limiting access to lockboxes that provide licensed brokers physical access to a home that is for sale only to those real estate brokers who are members. Now, one of the things that I can tell you is that a lot of this has changed. A lot of the websites now do have the amount of buyer broker compensation that the public can see. As I said, commissions are meant to always be negotiable. But what I want to come back to is that allowing buyer brokers to mislead buyers into thinking the buyer broker services are free. And I think this is where I have seen the biggest breakdown in communication between a buyer's agent and the buyer, is that the agent will sometimes even say, I've heard it myself, that you don't have to pay my commission. The seller's broker does that, so it doesn't cost you anything. And I think this is where I think a lot of this is coming from, is that buyers will show up at the settlement, or they'll get their settlement sheets, and they've come to the table, they've brought their last hard-earned money, everything that they've saved, scraped together. They and first-time buyers, especially that haven't had help from mom and dad, and then they get the settlement sheet that is, which we call the ALTA, if they have a loan, a federally regulated loan, and they get that, and then they'll see that their agent is making, what they consider to be, a decent amount of money. And sometimes the buyers are really set back at that, and whether they bring it up to their agent or not, they're like, I didn't know that, they were getting paid this much money. And what I've heard from a lot of people that have called in on this issue is that the buyers say, had I known that, maybe I wouldn't have used that agent, or I would have chosen somebody else. So I think, again, a lot of this is just transparency that we're seeing. And Joe, mine on my screen is not highlighted anymore. So I think that was it on that, wasn't it? On that? Yep. So anyway, so that's just kind of setting the stage here. So I think that what's happening is that, and with the lawsuits, a lot of them stem from the seller that was saying that basically they're paying for the buyer's broker to represent a client to negotiate against them. And I think some of that has struck a nerve. But I just want to say that, and this is something that I talk to my attorney about, quite regularly, in making sure that, hey, we're keeping track on what's happening with these lawsuits. Where do we think things are going? How will the contracts change, the forms change? What would be the implications or potential implications to the buyers and the sellers too? Because it's not just I think the biggest thing that these sellers have to realize is nothing's happening until a buyer says yes and can have the wherewithal to close the deal. No one's getting paid. So, including the seller. So, a lot of some of the things that make me scratch my head sometimes is like, wow, you're actually going after, suing. I mean, I think these attorneys are running wild with it, but they're actually suing. If it wouldn't be for these buyers, you wouldn't have gotten this money for your house and these multiple offers and seen price appreciation of 40% in 2 years, if it wouldn't be for the buyers. And I think what we need to be mindful here is as we're navigating this through, because I think a lot of times the lawmakers, I'm going to say their intention is to help the public at large, but a lot of times they don't know how the industry works or the semantics or the implications that could result. And I think that, we just need to be careful what we wish for. But anyway, but I'd like to, Melissa, why don't you bring in Pia and we'll kind of figure out what's going on in Northern Virginia as we will also dive in more to what is being said, what are these allegations amounting to, and what we think some of the changes will be very soon, that we will start to have another form. It's amazing. I don't remember exactly how many pages the contract was when I entered the business, or even when I was selling houses through other agents before I was a licensee. And it's nothing like the amount of paperwork that we have now. Of course, it's electronic, most of it, but still pages and pages and pages. And we're going to be adding more, I have a feeling. But anyway.
Hi, Pia.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Go ahead and introduce yourself and let everyone know
Sure.
what you're doing up there in Northern Virginia.
Okay, hi. My name is Pia Reyes. I am with the firm Coldwell Banker. I've been a realtor since 2008, and I service the Virginia, Maryland, DC areas. And I'm in the Old Town Alexandria office. The business is really busy right now. Started to pick up like mid of January. I'm seeing a lot of pent up demand and a lot of people coming out. A lot of first time home buyers embracing the interest rates, hoping that they could refi later. But yes, the market definitely has changed from the last quarter of 2023.
Well, why don't you tell us what's changed the most? What are you seeing?
Well, it's just buyers are. I think a lot of them are more educated. They understand that the interest rates are. They're hoping that it would be temporary. There's a saying going on that you marry the house, you date the rate. So, and there's a lot of lenders also coming up with loan programs that may fit. Is someone who would help them adjust the interest rate to like a buy down interest rate. So there's so much going on, but I am seeing even FHA programs being utilized at the moment. So they're coming out. They're getting ready. For the last 2 years, it's been so slow, and I think people are ready to buy. They're realizing, Todd, that the more they delay, the prices continue to rise.
You think that's going to change?
Not in our immediate area. I really don't think so. In the DMV, especially with the elections coming up, there's always a turnover. It's always busy. All all seasons, all time of the year. Even when it was slower, there was still a lot of business, just people moving in and out. So my personal opinion is that it's not going to slow down. It's going to continue, and the prices will most likely just stagnate or continue to rise.
What about the fact that the home prices are out of reach for many people?
Yeah, a lot of people are just being priced out. I see a lot of them doing alternative financing, gifts from parents, 401k. That's most a lot. That's kind of common nowadays. Yeah. I know this also. A lot of my buyers who could never saw themselves out of the DMV areas in the outskirts are moving that direction. I was talking to one of my buyers that we've been talking since last quarter of the year, and now they're like, "Oh, we've done our own research. Now we want to move towards Bowie, which is like in the suburbs of DMV." But because one of them worked from home, so one person is just gonna be doing the commute. So a lot of people are moving out. Just
Pia, what do you think about mortgage interest rates almost at 8% again?
I don't know. Is it at 8? Because the last time I checked, last week it was down to 7%.
They just bumped. We've just had another bump up this week. I mean, I'm looking on Zillow right now, 30-year fixed rate average in Maryland with 20% down, 7.906%. And this is within a lot of, what you're referring to, a lot of these buyers are buying the rates down.
A lot of them are. A lot of them, I have not done this, but a lot of my other agents in my office have negotiated for the seller to pay for closing costs, which include buying the rate down. It's funny. It's because I service the DMV area, and it's a high income area. I have really not seen, people are. I had the first time home buyers. I just closed one this morning, so it's hard for me to translate that because I'm in the immediate DMV. But I can imagine like 8%. If I had bought my home at 8%, when I bought it 2 years ago, there's no way I could afford it at 8%. Definitely no way, even if it was the same price. So I can imagine a lot of people are continuing to rent, but there's also a lot who have been renting who are just like, there's a pent up demand in my immediate area. Yes.
How many do you have under contract right now?
So I'm actually closing 1, 2, 3, and then under contract about 3.
So you're closing 3, in the next 30 days?
I closed 1 this morning. I'm closing 1 on Thursday, and I'm closing 1 on Friday. And then I have just 3 under contract. But it's funny. These are places that I usually don't go to, like Accokeek, Maryland. I mean, it's not immediate. It's a little bit of a drive from DC, but that's where they're going. Bowie, Maryland.
They're going to areas that are less expensive.
Correct. Front Royal. So they're in the outskirts of DMV. It's like some of them are an hour drive from DMV.
Yeah. So you're not seeing anybody actually buying houses from you in Alexandria, Virginia.
I just closed 1.2 million in DC, and it's a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, but DC, not Alexandria, not Virginia.
DC, Alexandria is moving, Todd, believe it or not. But the buyer there, it's not first-time home buyer in Alexandria. Old Town Alexandria, it's usually people who have bought homes who are already in their probably in their 50s who can afford those homes because they're multi-million dollars in Alexandria. But in the outskirts,
as far as
in the
inventory,
suburbs,
what are you seeing in inventory?
So we had a meeting this morning in our office. We're seeing a little bit of an increase in 10% increase of listings compared to last year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're breaking up a little bit. All right. Well, look, we appreciate you checking in. I think your internet connection is a little bit
choppy.
Yeah, choppy. So, not sure if you're on a Wi-Fi, but Well, we appreciate you checking in on. So just before you go, Pia, what do you think is going to happen with? I mean, are you keeping your pulse at all on the lawsuits, or where do you stand with that?
I mean, I understand the frustration of the buyers and the sellers, but there are agents who fail to really execute what's expected of them. I've been in doing this business for a long time, Todd, and I obviously demonstrate. It's not about me; it's about the buyer's needs. Buyers see that. I work with buyers um, who are willing to pay for my commission. So it's my opinion is that if I always have a talk with them. Part of the job of the realtor right now is to really educate the buyers. And if they don't agree, then they're not my clients. But it's part of it is really educating the consumer.
Yeah, Pia, are we choppy for you? Somebody
No,
just
you're
said
not.
that. No, we're not. Okay, just making sure.
No.
It's just the sound.
apologize.
It feels like it's.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you checking in. Thanks so much. And I know I did do a trip down to DC, Alexandra, not that long ago. And Travis from Real Estate Mindset actually came up to Maryland, and we went to DC and then went into Northern Virginia. And we were looking at, it seemed like the inventory was still very tight, and new construction seemed to be selling strong. So, I guess it's just the outflow of the government that is in DC and all the contractors that serve the government. And I think that we are probably in one of the most insulated areas, though it didn't insulate us when we had the GFC. We fell pretty hard in the DMV. And but Northern Virginia has been in the headline news multiple times. I can remember back in the early 2000s, all of the foreclosures in Northern Virginia, and the market completely fell out of the Northern Virginia housing market. A lot of new builders went out of business, and in fact, I had one that beat me out of a whole bunch of money back in the day, and they were out of Virginia. It's funny that. But anyway, we appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, is it better? Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah,
It is better.
It is better. Yeah.
My earphone. That's probably what it is.
Yes.
But
So did you, anything else?
yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm seeing a lot of new listings. Just this week alone, I'm doing 2 listing appointments. I mean, it was so dead at the end of the last quarter, and now people are really coming out. Listings have gone up a little bit. It's still a very tight inventory. So I also noticed in DC, any home that's geared towards a first-time home buyer, condos, 1-bedroom, they're really hurting right now in DC. And also in Virginia, some of them, if it's because first-time home buyers are still not, they can't stomach the interest rates being a little bit high. But people who have owned homes, lifestyle changes, they're either selling and buying, moving. I mean, there are people buying right now. It's really busy for a lot of us. So I just, I hope it continues, and hopefully the rates kind of like level out a little bit.
Yeah, well, if you look at 7.5%, that's a 50-year running average. So I think that if it wasn't for the artificial manipulation of the interest rate,
I understand.
I don't think we would have seen the price gains, the price appreciation, and now that we are back to reality of what interest rates are all about, and the qualifications that buyers should have in order to purchase a very large asset like a house. And now that the prices are inflated, it's so far out of reach that if prices don't come down, people are just going to continue to be sidelined, and it's going to get tougher and tougher. But we thank you so much. Thanks for jumping in with us, Pia.
Great seeing you guys.
Good
Seeing
seeing
you too.
Happy spring.
Happy spring. All right.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, so little check-in from Northern Virginia. I want to go back to. So this is something that has just happened. And so 2 things I want to cover from what Pia said. One is that lenders are getting, I hate date the rate.
Oh, I know you
and,
do.
And,
I
and,
know.
I mean, we don't
speak that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm not knocking on P at all,
No, of
but I'm
course
just
not.
saying that that is a narrative that people do not educate, and they don't educate enough that you may not be dating the rate, you may actually be marrying the rate, because you may not be able to refinance, and for many people, because of the way that they do the payment schedule, the amortization schedule, is that you really don't pay off much of your principal for the first 5 years of owning the house. So unless you have a lot of equity, you may not be able to refinance, and that's the problem. But what she was referring to as far as and let's pull a poll back up again. I want to that out because I'm really curious to see what people were thinking here. So interestingly enough, unless we have a whole bunch of agents on that are watching tonight, most people say that the buyer's broker should be paid by the listing broker, and that's the way it's set up now. So interesting that 407 votes and counting, so we'll keep monitoring that. But we would like in the poll section to hear you guys, what you have to say. 17% said that a buyer's broker shouldn't be paid. Interesting, but it's sort of like in a, almost like they're in chronological order as to what you all feel the most. And next to the buyers not being paid would be the buyers, or the buyer's agent not being paid would be the buyers paying it themselves. You're not a fan of that. So I think that as we dive into this a little bit further, this press release on consumerfed.org just came out on the 20th of February. So last week, says that DOJ rejects court settlement and affirms importance of decoupling agent commissions. And to understand, decoupling means to break off or make a change to split something up. NAR president acknowledges, and this is the first that I've heard of this, and there is another article where the spokesperson speaks out for the National Association of Realtors. But NAR president here acknowledges that the way we operate our business is going to change. So late Thursday, February 15th, the U.S. Department of Justice submitted a strong opinion in a lawsuit against the New England multiple listing service and several major real estate companies for a system of coupled commissions that allow agents and brokers to charge high fixed rates to participate in MLS. Listing agents have been required to offer compensation to buyer agents with no opportunity for buyers to negotiate that compensation. And I think that's that's what we're trying to, as we're seeing this whole play out, is that the buyers should have more of a say, as this thing's unraveling, as to, if they're paying, if ultimately their agent's getting paid, they should have a say in more of, who should be representing them, because a lot of, and I'm sorry if this offends you, but a lot of people just use their friends from school, college, their, mom's friend that to represent them. And it's just that it's not necessarily the best thing for the buyer. So I think out of all of this, if a buyer is realizing now that there is a compensation to somebody, that they would say, okay, well, if I'm going to pay if that person's getting paid this amount of money out of the sale, then I want more of a say on who is going to be representing me, because buyers are pissed off that over the last several years, they feel like they did all the work. They shopped the MLS. They went on the open house without their agent. They stood in line to go through. They said they wanted to buy it, and their agent just wrote the contract up. A lot of the agents didn't even look at the house that they were putting an offer in. I mean, I've said that to agents in my listings. Did you see the house? No, I haven't seen it yet. Well, why are you putting in an offer for your agent, for your buyer, without putting your eyes on the property?
Yeah.
It's insanity.
And then they're being forced to put in the higher offer amount, sometimes over the listing price.
Well, over the appraised price.
Over the appraised price. Yeah. And then they have to pay the commission on top of that.
This DOJ opinion virtually guarantees that buyers will eventually be able to negotiate buyer agent commissions, and that they're currently fixed through industry collusion, says Stephen Brobeck, a CFA senior fellow. It is also likely that there will be a greater variation of agent compensation depending on factors such as agent experience and time spent on the sale, he added. DOJ litigation begun in 1940s, I told you we'd get to that, against industry adoption of standard rates of commissions, with a notable U.S. Supreme Court decision in 1950 favoring the DOJ. So this goes back decades. The DOJ, looking into, I guess, NAR and their practices. An October 2023 jury decision in the Sitzer lawsuit that found the industry guilty of price fixing and awarded damages that could exceed $5 billion. More than 20% or more than 20 recent class action lawsuits filed representing sellers or buyers are now increasing current and potential legal costs and jeopardizing not only NAR but the multiple listing services and big companies, but also residential brokers. And DOJ does not envision a compensation system where the buyers must come up with additional cash to pay their agents. So they're trying to be clear on that. I think that when you say, should the buyer be paying the agent, I think we've established that would be a disaster, considering most of the first-time buyers don't have any money. The agency agrees that sellers could provide dollar concessions to be used for this compensation and other buyer expenses. However, the DOJ stressed that buyers must have the ability to negotiate these commissions, then decide what, if any, concessions to seek from sellers. So
I do want to, there's a comment here, and I just want to make a statement. So we have this one. So many real estate agents have these cute Instagram profiles that make them look really successful too. I will say there are things that you as consumers can do. You really should be doing your due diligence here if you're looking for a real estate agent. You can go on a site, let's say Zillow, and you can see, now again, the agent has to be doing some sort of advertising typically with Zillow, but you can see how many transactions they've done in the past 12 months. And that will tell you, that will be a little bit of a hint and a sign to tell you that they're full-time. If they've done 12 transactions, let's say, in the past 12 months, that's going to be considered full-time. So there are key things that you can do. So just as, everything is shiny and wonderful on Instagram, but if you dive in a little bit and do a little bit of your own due diligence, you'll be able to kind of get a feel for what type of an agent it is. Definitely read the reviews, of course, make sure they're real and they're coming from real people. But that's just a little hint that I wanted to put out there.
most of the people that are posting on Instagram weren't around in the GFC, so they have no idea what could potentially be coming down the pike. And this really is a lot to do with the investors. So a lot of people that have gotten into in real estate investing, or they're promoting that, a lot of these people, they're going to get, I think they're going to get really whacked because all the costs have gone up and pressure on rent prices are coming down. So I think that, these Instagrammers and TikTokers, they may be, aren't we on Instagram and TikTok?
We are.
We haven't posted in a while. I think we posted one Instagram in 5 months or something, but we're back on it. We're back. We got somebody that's actually, that we've hired to help us post. So if you like Instagram and TikTok, find us
And follow.
And follow us on there. We're going to come up with some funny stuff too, I think. Melissa's going to dance, do her.
You never know.
What are they called? Shuffles or something?
Stay tuned. Maybe. Who knows?
They're shuffle. Anyway, we have Kim. So Kim online right now. And Kim is from
Florida.
What?
Florida.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying where there's a lot of money in Boca.
Yeah.
I mean, she has not
Fort Lauderdale area.
Fort Lauderdale, but also Boca. We did a video on one of her listings. Let's bring her in because I want to know what's happening in the luxury market in Florida.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What's happening, Kim?
Keeping busy.
Keeping busy.
Yes.
What's happening with the multi-million-dollar houses? Are they sitting?
Oops, am I coming in right or?
You just need to scooch over a tad, get right in the middle of the.
Oh,
Yeah, I
other
think
way.
you're going away from the camera.
There you go. There you
All
go.
right.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Well, the high end is a little bit quiet. There hasn't been quite as much on the high end. And our market's been a little bit strange. We were quiet in January, and now I've been pretty busy. Quite a bit of people out there looking right now.
What's the inventory? So are you doing most of your work in Fort Lauderdale?
Fort Lauderdale and Boca.
Okay. So
And you
what's
know,
the-
I do a lot of East. So I did do some numbers for you.
Great.
And in Fort Lauderdale, we have 842 homes on the market. And just to show you like what's really difficult is for the first time home buyers, our prices have we've had, let's see here, an increase of 64% in 5 years on housing, which is an average of 220,000 in average sales gain on properties.
What is that doing for,
Did I lose you?
from Florida? Are they really upset with the influx of domestic migration, and are they upset with the way that prices have gone up? I guess not if they're selling, but otherwise, just in general.
It's very difficult for the first time home buyers. Like I said, we have 842 homes on the market. 50 of those are 10 million and up. 77 are 5 to 10 million. 304 are 1 million to 5 million. And then from 500 to 1 million, there's 243. So in that price range right now, if you're a first time home buyer, you have to be close to 500 to get a house. And then from 0 to up to under 500,000, there's 173 homes. So it's difficult. Like I do a lot of the waterfront properties, but I have a lot of referral business. So I've been helping a lot of first time home buyers, I like helping them a lot. And there's the first time home buyer programs where they're getting down payment assistance. But if they're at 300, I have to do a condo. And then we're dealing with the condos with the back reserves, and they're getting assessments. So the condo market it's moving, but we're seeing price reductions because of the assessments and everything.
You have a mess with that. Yeah. I mean, the condo, and maybe you can explain that to people, because a lot of people are moving into these condominiums and they have no idea what a special assessment is. So why don't you just kind of explain what is going on with that?
Okay. Well, we could always vote on reserves. So what happened was every year people would vote to not take reserves in. And then we had the building in Miami with the collapse. So everything turned around. So now we all have to collect reserves. So not only are we having that, we're getting insurance increases. So like I have a condo building that I've sold about 35 units in there. And a 2-bedroom maintenance used to be right at 400. Now the maintenance just in January, because we were not collecting reserves, it went to $640 on a 2-bedroom. And they have about a $4,000 assessment that's to cover the insurance, because insurance has doubled on a lot of them. So because the insurance is up, instead of putting it in the maintenance, we're getting a special assessment. And then, of course, you've got an HO6, which is an insurance policy from the walls in. And I've watched those in this one building go from 900 to 1,400 to 2,200 up to like 3,000 now. And that's just interior. So, yeah, it's a little difficult.
Are you seeing delinquencies rise in condo fees?
You know, I was talking to my lender and my attorney today, and we could see foreclosures coming up on that end, just because one building had a $75,000 assessment. I was talking to the attorney today, and he's seeing that the sellers, they're going to have to pay these assessments in order to, at closing, in order for these people to close on them.
They gave each owner a $75,000 special assessment.
Yes, and I've heard higher. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so give me an idea. So what are these condos selling for that have a $75,000 special assessment?
That one, I didn't do that one. I'm not sure. It might have been like 600,000 or so, but I'm not sure on that one. But a
Wow.
good example, I have a past client from Canada, and the Canadian market, because the dollar exchange is so low, that's slowed down a little bit. But we were looking at 1-bedroom condos by the beach, and there was a maintenance of 800, and we were like, it's a little bit high. Well, then I researched it, and I found another one, and the maintenance was 1,200. The agent just didn't update it. So here you have a 1-bedroom for 250,000, and the maintenance was like 1150. So we scratched that off our list. But it's tough. And if you're on a fixed income, what are you supposed to do? You know, if you're living there all these years.
Are most of the people who are buying most of the properties, I mean, are they out? Are they foreign investors? I mean, you talk about Canadians. I mean, do you see, by the way, statistically speaking, Canadians are our largest, foreign investor of our real estate
Yeah, well,
in the U.S.
we have a brokerage also in Canada that's part of ours. And so we're getting people from there, but I am finding, like, my clients just left and they said our dollar rate is just too low. We're going to be back in the fall. I'm finding a lot of my buyers are people that are maybe renting now and moving into a house. I've got one from Jamaica that's looking for waterfront, and perfect example, 500 to $1 million. We started looking, couldn't find it. Now, then we went to 1.5. Now we're up to 2 million because we're trying to find a no fixed bridge house. So that's difficult. I mean, I've been selling for over 25 years. So I'm seeing houses that were 300,000 that are now close to 2 million. It's crazy.
Kim, do you think a massive correction is headed your way in Florida?
I'm seeing prices somewhat stabilized. I have a house on the water that's the lowest in Pompano right now with one fixed bridge, and we're at 949. And we're priced right in where it will be. I think they're going to settle out. We're not going to see a drop like it did before. I don't think, because everybody wants to move to Florida. You know, if we were somewhere else, I would say, but so many people are coming here. They're getting out of New York. They're getting, even from California, they're coming now. And a lot of people are cash. So the interest rates aren't really affecting them.
These are people that are retirees.
No, some of them are, I'd say 40, 50 age range. Mm-hmm.
What do they do for jobs? I mean, you guys, I mean, when I visit Florida, I see most of the jobs are hospitality jobs. They're not paying salaries to support these home prices and mortgage payments.
So many people they're remote. They're working out of another area, and they're remote workers. Ever since COVID, you could live anywhere and work. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a tale of two cities. I mean, I talked to some brokers in Florida, Jacksonville, and they're seeing price reductions, and people are not paying their mortgages, and at least that's what they're reporting. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Are you seeing days on the market skyrocketing? It's 949. It's whatever that's on the water. How many days is that?
We've been on about 3.5 months, but now we started high only because the other ones that were similar were like at 1,000,001. They were too high, but I'm like, we'll go to 1 million and we'll be the lowest price waterfront. And we were. I mean, we're working on an offer on it now. I am seeing days on market a little bit more, but it varies. Like our office had a house in Pompano for, I think it was 620. It was on the market 7 days, and it's selling 30,000 over list price. So we're still seeing some of those.
Was it priced low to generate that activity?
Not really. It's just like our inventory. I've got this here. Our single family inventory. Okay, this month supply is 3.8 on single family and 6.1 on condos. But it's the houses that started super high and they're just slowly getting sold. But some of them are coming on, and there's not a lot out there that's a really nice house, and they're selling fast.
How many of them do you see go back on the market?
I'm seeing a few more expired listings than usual. Not as for a while there was none, but I am seeing that. Our other challenge is insurance. Like if you're first-time home buyer, I have to really educate them. We have to find out what the insurance is going to be, because it's going to totally affect the mortgage and our taxes.
So how many go under contract that actually go back to active?
I am not seeing too many.
Yeah.
Maybe more in the lower price range, I'll see that. But because the buyer's financing, but in the waterfront and that, no, they usually, when they go under contract, they stay.
Gotcha. Well, we thank you for coming on and educating us on your Florida market. We wish you the best for the spring, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Hey,
Okay.
take care. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
All right. So I know we have a video on one of her listings. It was
Yeah.
an amazing house.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's still for sale. And that was quite some time ago, but it was
I think there's a potential for things to get very scary in Florida. Just hearing that. I mean, the assessment in itself, yikes.
you buy condos, you never know what's going to happen. You're stuck. And what happens, and in Florida back in the GFC, they were offering cars to buy condominiums. They may be doing that now. I should have asked you that, but it was, if you buy this condominium, you get a BMW. They were doing everything they could before it really hit the fan. And then in Fort Myers, they were literally bulldozing buildings, condominiums, entire buildings that had never had the power put on. They had drywall that was so moldy, so much black mold in the buildings from the humidity that they literally had to just tear them down. But we'll see what happens. So who we got up next?
We've got Terry, and I think Terry is backstage. She is in the Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas area.
All right.
So
See what's happening
looking
in
forward
Dallas,
to-
Fort Worth.
Hey, Terry, how are you?
Hey guys, good. How are you guys doing?
Really,
well.
really
Good to see ya.
great.
Good to see you guys too. Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoy your show and love all the guest speakers you guys have on there. I watch it every chance I get. So thank you so much for having great people on.
We appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're so grateful to have you a part of our agent referral network. Terry's down there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Terry, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, yeah, my name is Terry Reeves, and I've been in the industry for about 7 years, but I've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex for almost 40. And, seeing the many different changes like we're seeing all over the U.S., but Texas seems to have a pretty steady market. And so we don't see some of the crazy influxes that we do in some of the other states. And so it's been, pretty interesting just to see some of the craziness that happened back in 2020, 21, 22. And I'm sure that happened all over the U.S., the crazy influx of with the interest rates dropping and inventory with high demand. And I'm sure that happened, all across the U.S. But here, we're staying pretty steady. Our market value for our homes stay pretty strong. And so just like the other, I think her name was Kim, right, in Florida.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, she mentioned something about, our insurance, and we're not experiencing the extremely high insurance rate like Florida is, but that's kind of hurts some of the buyers a little with, getting insurance for their home, because it is becoming costly, and factoring that into, our monthly mortgage rates sometimes becomes a little sticky, and we have to kind of get creative sometimes in financing. But yeah, it's a new concept to understand our insurance and to really be ready to explain that to our potential buyers. With that now, we never really had to talk about that too much before like we do now. Just the cost of insurance is affecting sometimes the purchasing power.
Well, a couple things I've learned about your area is with it as it relates to insurance is most people, their insurance policy pays for their roof because you have so much hail damage.
Oh,
And so I think aren't they making some changes with that? I heard where if it's over a certain amount of years old, they'll only pay for What, the actual product and not the labor, or what are they
Right, right.
changing?
Yeah. So I mean, it's going up just because the cost, and it's so costly, since we have so much weather damage here, that our insurance is changing, and so they're only covering sometimes just parts but not labor. So we have to get a little bit more creative too as consumers on who we find in the roofing business, and as realtors we also have to kind of interview because a lot of we become the resource, right, for a lot of our consumers and our clients. So we have to get a little bit creative on that part. But yes, I mean, it's quite the change. We were a little bit spoiled here for a while, but now we have to, factor in, how much is that going to cost us, and what kind of, and not every roofing material is the same. So you have to get a little bit more knowledgeable too. Is it going to be a certain composite, or if it's going to be, aluminum, or if it's going to be so we have to do a little bit more research now on the consumer side, as well as before we didn't. We just took it for granted. So yeah, you're right. That's exactly how it's changed in the last year, for sure.
You have a lot of foundation problems. You have to
Oh,
irrigate around the house. One
oh,
of the things I heard about
yeah,
the Texas market, at least that Dallas,
yeah.
Fort Worth area, is that you have houses that have had foundation problems or houses that will have foundation problems. And I heard that some consumers are masking them as well. They'll put like some type of wall covering over top. You walk through the houses and the cracks are above the door. I mean, they're really signs that you can tell. Can you just talk to that a minute? I mean, how do you have to protect your buyers?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of take that for granted because you're right. Not every market experiences foundation issues. And it's funny when I talk across the country about what we have to experience here, it's kind of a strange phenomenon to most people, but it's our sand composite, it's our dirt composite here in the DFW area. So we do have to be careful. So how I try to protect the consumer and the buyers is when you're making a purchase into an older home and even a brand new home, inspection is key. But not only that, but on top of that is getting a good engineer's report, because you can get a foundation expert to come in, but really bottom line, who's going to really cover you in the end is an engineer's report. And an engineer's report is so, as far as what it costs and what the investment is so worth it. In the end, it's only anywhere from, depending on the square footage, anywhere from 500 up to 1,500, again, depending on the square footage of the home. But I always recommend, to protect my buyers, to protect the consumers, even to protect the current homeowners, is to always get an engineer's report to see how your home is shifting, through the months, through the years. And sometimes when you're in a brand new home, you won't see it for the next, 10 years. It happens slowly over time. But some of the things that I tell my clients to look for is to look at the corners of the home, of the windows, the door frame, the flooring of any of the entryways of your home. You can even, and this is kind of something fun to do, but I usually get a golf ball or a marble to see how much the ball actually rolls from one end of the home to the other. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's a significant drop or a significant movement.
What have you seen with the banning of short-term rentals in the Dallas area? Are you seeing what's happening with this inventory? Are they, and I know Fort Worth, I mean, they've never allowed them in Fort Worth, am I right with that?
As far as banning
short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs.
Yeah. So especially in Fort Worth, which is Tarrant County, the Arlington County, we're getting a lot of complaints. They do not want Airbnbs or short-term rentals. And we have to educate our consumers or clients that if they're looking into a property that they would love to see that happen for like an extra bathhouse or an extra building in the backyard, that some people use that for extra income. And yes, it is banned in some of our markets here, especially on the Tarrant County side. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Are
And
you
some of our
seeing
HOAs will not allow it.
are you seeing where they had those in the Dallas area and they're now selling them, or are they turning them into longer term rentals? What are they doing with the inventory?
So some are long-term inventory, but some are just completely banned. So they are not allowed at all. So they're turned into either residential, or if it's a super old property, then they knock them down and turn them into multi-complexes, and things of that nature. So yeah,
I'm
that's a
glad
good
you said that. I've seen that. They tear a house down and build a 4-unit building in its place. And apparently that's really easy to do. You can get the permits for that very easily.
Yep, you sure can.
And that's why it's so expensive. The land, they can get so much money for these teardowns because
Yep.
the investors are coming in and turning them into 4-unit apartments.
Exactly.
So
That's
very low density requirements. It just amazes me. What do you think? So what do you think is going to happen? You have major employers, Lockheed Martin, big compound right there in Dallas. What do you think? What's going to happen with the Dallas and the outer lying areas? Do you expect price adjustments, or are you thinking that it's just going to continue to go up?
Yeah, all of it, right? So we're seeing a lot of communities where it's like a multi-level community that are massively being built, where the population is condensed into a particular community where it's almost like a New York type situation where multi-homes, multi-family units are being built in one community where you don't really even have to go outside of that community. You have your stores, you have your shopping, you have your retail, you have your eateries, you have your almost everything wrapped into one. And where I currently am stationed at now is in Mansfield. So it's a little bit 17 miles south of Arlington. And they're actually building a kind of like a smaller studio, a mini-size Hollywood studio. So they're actually building a massive complex just to house the people that are coming in from the studios here in the next couple of years. But yeah, we have friendly corporate taxes here. And so that's why we have a lot of different corporations that move into this area.
Interesting.
There was a question for you, Terry.
Mhm.
We're going to backtrack just a little bit to what you were talking about, the engineer report.
Yeah.
Who will pay for engineer report, the buyer or the seller?
So that's a good question. Typically, if it's a report that you would like to own, typically the person who is purchasing that home, it's really that person's report, right? Just kind of like the inspection report. Sometimes when I'm going into a listing presentation and we have questions about the foundation, or if that could be a potential hiccup in the sale of the property or the value of the property, sometimes as a realtor, I would incorporate that as part of the selling process, and I can actually pay for it as the realtor. So it really depends on who's going to own the report and how much value and how much emphasis you're going to put on that particular report.
Thank you for that. And there is another question here regarding insurance. Let's do this one. Bear with me just one moment. But someone said, yeah, here we go. Charlton, thank you so much for your question. How can you get a loan if no insurance company will take it on?
Yeah. So I had something creative personally happen with me and a couple of my clients. They were purchasing almost $1 million property here in one of the suburbs in the DFW area. And they had a claim. So it was a couple that was getting married. And so one of the male side, he had actually a claim against his previous home. And then the female side, where she had a previous claim in her home. So when they were actually buying this $1 million property to come together, each claim affected their purchasing power to buy insurance on this new home. So thankfully, I had a really good insurance guy. And it's really, I strongly recommend to a lot of realtors out there to always have a good portfolio, have a good insurance person that you go to, have a good lender that you trust, have a good inspector, right? And we can't really, as realtors, we can't favor all these people, but have a big portfolio that you are able to recommend. These are some of the references that some of my clients have used. So I usually have a really good backup plan that's like my team of experts. And so this particular insurance guy, he's been in the business for 25 years. He pulled a rabbit out of his hat. And I can't explain to you what kind of insurance he actually came up with for my couple friend, but it's kind of like the best way I can reference. It was an Obamacare insurance plan for a home. And he pulled a rabbit out of his hat. So it was a little bit more costly. It did affect their ultimate monthly mortgage, but it was so worth it because they really wanted this home and they were able to have the purchasing power to pay the extra in this particular Obama type home insurance. So they are out there, but the key is getting a really good person, whoever you're trying to use, whether it's, in the inspection world or in the insurance world, or, just make sure you have a really good team of experts that are your go-to that will help you save the deal.
I'm coining that for you, the Obamacare housing insurance. That's a good one. So I wonder, does it actually pay if something goes wrong? I have a friend of mine that sold his insurance company. I think they closed on it. I don't remember. I lose track. Maybe last year, end of the year, or beginning of this year. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm trying to get him on the show because.
Well, and we just had a request from Tim Langer, said that we need to get an insurance.
Yeah.
Nice. That's the request.
Yeah. And he said that insurance was great at paying everything except what the claim, except the claim that's filed. So
isn't that the truth?
We had a situation where an oil company, it was a listing of ours, and an oil company delivered, or no, they didn't. Sorry, I'm screwing this story up. We were about to list the house. The HVAC contractor was servicing the oil furnace and didn't do something right. And it pumped maybe a couple 100 gallon over the weekend of oil into the basement of this house. And it ended up going down through the cracks in the foundation. They had to jackhammer the whatever. They're still fighting the insurance company because my sellers just had to jump in and literally just write the checks themselves because the insurance company was awful in the transaction. And anyway, it's still going on. My clients' lawyers are still talking about needing to, get more, all the notes and things like that we have. But very interesting. What about crime? How is crime affecting the city like Fort Worth? Are you seeing a uptick in crime? Are you seeing? I've been doing a lot of research and visiting different cities, and fentanyl's out of control. And literally, people are walking down the street smoking it. Are you seeing? You're a big city, Fort Worth. Are you seeing this type of behavior, and is crime rising?
That's kind of, what's funny? That's a good question. What's interesting about how the world sees us is we're just out of control, right? And I think crime is increasing across America. I just think, if we're going to do something philosophical, I think it's, it's just a lot of maybe hate, rising in our country, maybe unrest. But there's not anything different in the last 10 years where anything is really impacting our economy here in the DFW area, just because we're such a strong market. I have my family lives all over the US, and I have my sister who's a realtor in Vegas, and you can just really compare the two cities. That's a major city over there in Las Vegas and DFW. And the crime rate is just the same like it is in any other major cities. But I mean, she's, selling like crazy over there in the Vegas area. You got your Californians, you got your people from Utah just coming from everywhere, and people around the world coming to move, to Las Vegas. So her sales are really strong personally for her and her brokerage and the overall market. And I talked to a few other realtors there in the Vegas area. And I talked to a lot of my friends here in the DFW area that are realtors. And, I just think across the board, our crime maybe is getting a little out of control, but I don't think it's affecting really the sale of our homes or impacting any of our major cities. If anything, if we were having a little bit more crime in some of the major cities, we have the police power, to intervene and take care of that. So some of the areas, because I've been here for 40 years, right? So some of the areas in Dallas were really scary. Now they're absolutely sought after. They're gorgeous. They're turning. And I think it's happening across the US and all these major cities. A lot of the Gen Z and the millennials, they're moving into those places and they're calling it gentrification. They're changing that whole entire area. So I'm actually seeing kind of like the opposite, from 40 years ago to now.
We have a question here. Why is Texas a non-disclosure state? Is it a non-disclosure state? Hard to comp a house as a buyer without sold numbers. So yeah, when you look on Zillow and you look at what's up with that?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that. So I don't know why. I don't know why we're a non-disclosure state, but that's why you need your friendly local realtor to give you the actual facts. Some of my out-of-state clients that come here, they go to Zillow quite a bit, and they get their numbers from Zillow, because Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin, whatever internet company is trying to price our homes. I always encourage them to whatever city you're moving into Texas, because we are a non-disclosure state, talk to a local realtor. Really actually ask the questions of what's the average sales price, what's the average square footage. We're going to know just because we have a direct correlation with the MLS that actually gives the true numbers. So that's a good question. I never researched why we're a non-disclosure state, but I'm sure there's some kind of political avenue.
Texas has its own thing going, man. You have your own power grid.
Yep.
You got 3 power grids in the U.S., the Eastern, the Western, and then Texas. That's another question I have for you, and I know I'm just pounding on you because we get a lot of inquiries. You're such a big state. And do your buyer agency contracts have termination clauses on them?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always on the list side and the buy side. I always encourage, no matter what, I don't know who talks about it page per page, but just to be on the safe side, I do talk about on the list side and on the buy side, page per page, what each page identifies, what each paragraph identifies. And in the very end, in bold letters, it states that you do not sign without consulting with an attorney. Most don't consult with an attorney, and they do sign because they trust the realtor explaining the paragraphs. But we do say, and this is how I was trained, and this is even before I was even in real estate, going to Business 101, that even though we're explaining the contracts, we always, and almost in any industry, they always say to make sure that you consult an attorney before you sign. And we always let out any seller or buyer out of the agreement if they want out.
But is it a clause in there that states that?
Yes.
There's a termination clause.
Yes.
Could you explain it? Like from the buyer's agency side, what's the termination clause?
If we're not following, any of the particulars that they're looking for, if any way they don't like how we're conducting business, or we're not keeping anybody in this contract, right?
But it
So,
doesn't say we're not keeping anybody in the contract. I mean, where is the actual termination clause and what does it say?
I would have to look it up. I'm not sure
I'm just kind
what
of curious.
number. Yeah, what number?
Because I looked at one and I didn't see one.
Yeah. It's something that I've always stated, and there's all the people that
But stating it and in writing are two different things. I'm just saying, I'm not picking on you. I'm just,
right, you're
I'm
just
Terry,
trying
I'm
to
just
make
asking
sure.
because
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at a buyer agency form and I was like, where's the termination clause? And they're like, well, we'll let you out if you're unhappy. Like, no, where's the actual, where does it say that? And
Yeah.
what I recommend is beside people always, looking, or I mean, if they need to consult, if they don't understand it, they consult an attorney. Absolutely, you're signing a contract. But I always say, make sure that there's a termination clause and it's as clear as day that you can terminate the contract,
Yeah.
within a certain 30-day written notice or a week or 24 hours or something. Because I've had a couple states that I've looked at their buyer agency agreements. Tennessee is another one. And I talked to a Tennessee agent, and they're like, "Oh, well, of course we're going to let them out." Like, I'm like, it doesn't say that. And so anyway, that's just buyer beware out there.
Well, and I always encourage my clients that I'm working with, write it in an email. Say, per this agreement, I am discontinuing my relationship with so-and-so brokerage, with so-and-so realtor, and you sign it, I sign it. That's also legal written documentation.
Yeah, but isn't everything owned by the broker? Your broker would have to. Are you a broker or agent?
No, I'm just an agent.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything's really the broker's, right? So the broker would have to sign it, not just the agent.
Correct. Yeah.
The broker would have to agree. Well, anyway, It's just fun stuff. I'm not
It is
making.
fun stuff. What about you in
jabs at
your
you. I'm
state?
just-
Do you guys have that in your state?
100%. Yeah, we have termination clauses in both the buyer agency and the listing agreement. It's up to the broker to have their own. We're allowed to have our own termination clause, but like you said, I mean, no one wants to hold someone's feet to the fire if they don't want to work. I mean, I'm not going to force you into working with me, but I think we're a statutory state, which means everything has to be in writing. So you don't, when it comes to real estate. So there are no verbal contracts in real estate.
No.
Unless it's short-term rentals and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. Do we have any other questions
We
for
did
Terry?
have one
We're
more question.
taking up a lot of her time here.
No, I love it.
Terry.
Thank you. I can't believe you even asked me to be on here. I'm always the person who's watching all these beautiful people that you have on here. Very informative. And I'm like, I'm on the other side.
Well, we want to know what's happening in your area. I have a question for you. We can look at, there is a, now, Joe, again, I don't know why. This is the one that says case 120 at the top, United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts. This is a opinion that was just released from the Department of Justice. And I don't want to read the whole thing. I just want to go down, Joe. Are you with me on this thing? I just want to go down to the interest of the United States in Roman numeral 1 here. Purchasing a home is often the most expensive transaction of Americans' lives, and homeownership is an important vehicle for the wealth accumulation. Yet, despite the advent of the internet and the popularity of services like Zillow and Redfin, and we can fill in our own answer to that. What I would like to ask you, Terry, is home ownership an important vehicle for wealth accumulation, and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I look at it personally for me, really, and I try to educate consumers or clients that come to me. It's a multifaceted answer, right? So let's say I die and I have a child, right? So now I have some instant wealth to leave my child because this investment is mine, but technically it's not really 100% mine yet because I still owe on this home, right? So once it's 100% paid off, then it is ultimately all mine that I can will over, it's an inheritance, right, for my child. To others, it's a hindrance, right? Because you don't really 100% own it. So you're in debt to the debtor. And unless you use whatever kind of built up equity that you have, because you can be very creative with your equity. You can use the equity to buy other properties. You can use the equity to get yourself out of debt. So it's a multifaceted approach. But to me, it's actually 100% liability until it is 100% paid off, right? Because there's so many factors that can happen that, hope, God forbid, it never happens, that I won't be able to pay on this home. Then it's a major liability, and then it could be a major loss, right? So I think it's a multifaceted response. And I think on which side of the coin do you want to sit on? I personally think it's a great investment. There's some people that would rather rent, right? Because they don't have the maintenance, they don't have the insurance, they don't have the HOA, they don't have so many other things that are a liability to them. I was watching some other realtor on their YouTube stating that there's 2 apartments in New York, one on top of the other. And the renter spends much, much less on the rental as opposed to the owner that's right above this person, because they have to pay the the management fees. There's a service there at the door fees. It's really a major liability to the ownership above, where this guy right below him, he's just renting. And so there's not really any liabilities to him. So I think it just depends on what side of the coin you want to look at and how you look at. To me, it's an investment. I think it's a beautiful investment to be a hand-me-down or a handover to the next generation. What do you guys think? What do you think, Todd?
As far as generating wealth from a house?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that if we're paying 8% or 7.5% interest rates on a home where the asset prices have never been higher, no, I don't. I think it's a lifestyle. I think it's gotten to be that way. I think it will be a long time coming before we see price appreciation from here. That's just my opinion. And what I see happening is a whole lot of young people that are used to moving every 3 years, buying houses, and now all of a sudden realizing they don't want to be where they are. They didn't think about that when they bought the house. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, a lot of these buyers, especially over the last several years, are going to need to bring checks to the table to sell their house. Yep. And I think the other thing is when we're seeing it happen, they're refinancing their houses in this higher interest rate market to pay off their credit card bills, and they're not cutting up the credit cards. They still have them in their back pocket. So I don't see where the equity utilization will be there. And I think that it's a depreciating asset. So a house will fall down around you unless you continually spend money on it. And we just spoke about things, right? Foundation cracks, thousands and thousands of dollars, irrigation systems in your state to prevent foundation problems. You have to keep them maintained and updated. Out the kitchens that are getting outdated, bathrooms that are outdated, roofs that go bad that the insurance company isn't going to be paying for moving forward. The home price, all the repair price, the cost of the inflation that is happening, and makes it almost impossible for anybody to see any accumulation of wealth. I think that ship has sailed. I think the baby boomers have seen the biggest profit from a home price appreciation, and even Gen X, my generation. I think that we've seen the price appreciation, but I think as far as moving forward, it being a wealth building, decision. I think it's just going to have to come down to, can you afford it? And the other thing is, if you can afford it, it's a lifestyle. That's it. you buy, make sure it checks all the boxes, and that you're prepared that if you decide you want to move, that you bring a check to the table.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds very cynical and against what everybody would like to think about the American dream of homeownership, but I think it's gotten disgusting. I think when we have 10x'd somebody's salary in order for them to get into a house to have a roof over their head, or they're subjected to these rental rates that they can't even afford. I mean, we're looking at 30-year-olds that can't even afford a 1-bedroom apartment. And these are college graduates with $100,000 in debt.
Yeah.
What is it for them? Right. And that's our next generation. Baby boomers are going to come on the market. They're going to sell these houses are going to hit the market, and we'll see what happens. But
You know what, Todd? That's a good point. But I tell you what, I believe in our country. I'd rather citizens own the homes than people abroad owning our homes.
what do you do about the government owning it? Because if you don't pay your taxes, and you have a state with some of the highest property taxes, what do you do when you can't afford your tax bill at 75 years old?
Right. That's a good question. Yeah,
They take your house probably.
they do.
Yeah. So, that's and that's what I'm talking about. In some states, I think one of the, I have clients that are fully disabled vets, and their property taxes are waived, which I think is great. And I think that it should come a point in time where you hit a certain age and you don't pay property taxes anymore. And, I think that even if you figure 75 years old, at 75, you don't pay property taxes. But I think that what we're doing and seeing more of these 70-year-olds entering back into the workforce, not because they want to. I mean, we're looking at some of the highest in history. I know seniors that are in credit card debt. I mean, they're paying minimum payments. They can't even afford to live. And so we never saw that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I think that, anyway, I don't know what to do about it. Complain about it, but what do you do?
Yeah.
I guess vote for the right person in the White House, you hope, and the right party, or a mix, right?
Yeah. I don't even know what that right party is anymore. You know what I mean? I think there's, well, that's for another day.
Another day.
Yeah.
But Terry, we appreciate you. We thanks
Terry,
for
thank
all
you.
the great education, and best of wishes to you in Texas, and happy
Thank
spring.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Bye,
Talk to you
Melissa.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you. Have
Good
a good
night.
night.
All right. So who do we got up next? And then we have a
Got
couple.
Jim and Christina.
Jim and Christina.
Yeah.
All right. Let's bring them on. Husband and wife team
Yes.
in Kansas City, Kansas.
There
Good
we go.
evening.
Hi,
What's up, guys?
guys.
How are you?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Good
Just
to see you.
reminiscing. We're reminiscing the way things used to be.
Yeah.
Walk to school in 3 foot of snow.
It's snowing right now.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah, it was actually summer this morning, spring in the afternoon, or spring like late morning, and then fall in the afternoon, and now it's winter. So, Kansas
Well,
City.
that sounds like Maryland weather.
Does.
We had 65 degrees, I think, today, and tomorrow night they're calling for
Yeah.
snow. So
It's coming our way.
yeah, you're bringing it to sending it to us. Anyway, guys, introduce yourselves here. We just spent some time together. I could introduce you for you and say that you're a husband and wife team. And Christina wasn't happy when Jim retired from the military and said that he wanted to be part of a real estate business. And he kept trying and worked his way, wedged his way into her finally saying yes. And then Christina lets him do a couple of important things, so he feels of great value. I'm kidding, obviously, with that. But, anyway. But I did get a pretty
Good
job, right?
summary. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's
we're-
happening?
So we're located just outside of the Kansas City area. We kind of cover the metro area too. We're just outside of Fort Leavenworth. We're a small veteran-owned boutique brokerage. I've got 8 agents in the business. Kind of what's going on in our market currently, I'll kind of pass that off to Christina, and she can give you some of those details.
All right.
Okay, great. So basically, it's a little bit more stagnant here. I think it is everywhere. We've got about 1.7 to 2 months supply right now. This just since February, we've seen quite an uptick in pending listings. Inventory is continuing to grow. Our average price point here is about $325,000. It was about $100,000 less back in 2019. And we're seeing that grow about 2 to 3% a month. So we're still seeing home values go up, and probably about 10% over the last year. So right around like 30 to 40% since 2019.
Why?
So
What's the reason?
Market.
What's the reason?
The reason for what?
The growth, the price growth, 10%.
I think it's inventory based. Still.
Are you seeing bigger job market? I mean, what's military? Is that what?
No. I mean, our area
It's more affordable too.
has stayed not a lot of growth in terms of different industries coming in, especially in the county that we're at outside of Post. It stays pretty relatively the same over years and has for about 10 years. I think what's causing the inventory, the price to continue to slowly creep up, it's the lack of inventory. Sitting at 1.7 months of supply, there's not enough out there.
There we are.
Yeah, we're about 3.5 months. So we are seeing that increase, and we have two things happening. We either have houses that are priced right that are still selling within a week to 10 days with multiple offers, or we have houses that were overpriced that are sitting and struggling to be sold. And that's really what we see going on. But it's amazing, and I like to talk to you two because you own the brokerage, which is that's nice to be able to talk about what we're seeing with agent activity, because we share a lot of the same sentiments with the agents, and they're the Wild West sort of thing that's happening out there where they're just doing whatever and telling or saying whatever. And one of the things that I feel is that one of the reasons why we're not seeing the correction, because the unaffordability is certainly there, but I still think that agents are contributing to the exuberance of what's happening in the marketplace, because they're still encouraging their clients to reach for the stars. And I'm not trying to tell a buyer that they shouldn't be reaching for the stars if that's what they want to do, but a lot of these buyers are really stressed out. They're not financially, well off. They're strapped, and they don't understand, especially the first-time buyers, the implications of owning a home and fixing things. So what are you seeing with the agents? Are you still seeing where maybe part of the price growth? So I guess define an active listing. Are you still getting as many offers as you did 2 years ago? Well, we'll start with that question. You take a listing, what were you getting with the amount of offers 2 years ago, and what are you seeing in a multiple offers situation now with the quantity of offers?
So it kind of depends on the price point. So for us, if it's priced under 300, we're still seeing multiple offers if it's in good condition. I listed a house last week for 275 and I got 6 offers.
What would you have gotten on that house in 2022?
Probably about 10 to 12. But the offers this time, they weren't like crazy over list. They were probably about 10 or 15, but they were asking for seller concessions, home warranties. So we didn't see that a year or two ago.
You didn't see it at all. right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the correction I think we're seeing right now in our area is, Kansas City, yeah, we've appreciated kind of ridiculously, but I don't think we've appreciated in the way a lot of other parts of the United States have. And so I don't think we got as drastically high. And so the correction that we're seeing right now is sellers giving up some closing costs, maybe a little bit of a price reduction. The unfortunate side of some of them paying some credit or some interest rate buy down type stuff. And so we're kind of seeing incentives as opposed to price reductions right now. Now, the reductions may be coming in time.
So let's just take this scenario of a mock offer here without giving up confidentiality. I don't know if it's closed out for you or what or your requirements are as a brokerage or laws, disclosure laws. But let's take a mock offer. Give me a scenario of 7 offers come in on a house that is priced at $275,000. How many of them? What is the structure? Are you seeing where just one of them is really super good and the other 6 are just regular, what I would call traditional style offers
around the list price?
I would say that they were kind of very similar. 2 of them were contingent and their homes weren't even on the market.
Two of the offers, they had to sell a house first and they hadn't even put it on the market yet. So they're like, okay, well, we'll get our stuff together if you take this offer.
Right.
So,
right.
All right. So here we go. All right. That's 2 down. That's 5 left. What do the other ones look like?
So there was actually 6 offers. So there's 4 left.
4 left. So what do they look like?
Yep. So about 10 to 15 over for a couple. The other 2 were right around list price with about 5,000 in seller concessions. The first offer that we accepted was about 17 over with some concessions. And then that buyer backed out after we went under contract within probably 12 hours. So
and why do you think that happened? Why do you think that happened?
It was personally related impacts to his finances is probably the best way to describe that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was not really an offer anyway. So that was one of the 6?
That was one of the 6.
Right. So you really had one offer that was decent.
Well, two.
Well,
2
after the
contingents.
one dropped out. So we did. Yes. We had one offer after.
So here's the thing. So now when we take all that together, and this is the question. So when these agents are saying we have multiple offer situations, what a lot of these agents don't realize is a lot of these offers are very similar in nature. You don't have to shoot for the moon most of the time to get these. You had one that came in extraordinarily high, right, in comparison to other offers. And what we're finding is a lot of times that's driven because the agent is recommending what they should do. And instead of looking at all things considered. And so I believe that a lot of what's happening with this market right now is 2 things. We have the media saying home prices are going up, home prices are going up. So it's putting it in the mind of the seller that home prices are going up, not down. They're saying it, so it must be true. And then agents are basically just doing what, in a lot of cases, whatever they can do to secure that deal, not necessarily in the best benefit of their buyers. I mean, do you think that's a fair assessment?
There might be a little bit to that. Another thing that could be playing into that is we don't know how many houses they could have possibly written on, because you know the game. If you're a buyer and you've gone through and you've written multiple offers on houses and you've missed out in multiple offer situations, the next thing that you do, if you absolutely need a house, is you're willing to go a little bit deeper in the pocket. And so you do start writing those higher offers. I've seen it play out. Now, it shouldn't be playing out as much now as maybe it did back in 2021 or maybe early 2022. Shouldn't be the case, but that's an unknown if that may have played out in the near future for someone.
So let me just use what you just said and flip the table. And so now the agent has written 15 offers. And they're like, oh, come on, man. I'm getting so tired of writing offers for this buyer. Let's step it up. I mean, maybe the agent's saying, if you want me to, insinuating or whatever, pressuring, I don't know. If you want me to continue to, this is crazy. You keep coming in these lowball offers and we don't get them. So you have to, I mean, who knows? It might be a conversation that's coming from the agent too.
Yeah. There might be some pressure there.
Yeah.
Especially if you convince your clients as they're just coming into the market that that's what's going on. And so you just start off right off from the bat, writing higher offers.
Let's talk about the, I want to get your opinion as a broker on this housingwire.com. I don't know if you are a premium subscriber to them. We are. So if you guys are just going to look this stuff up online, you won't find it unless you remember housingwire.com. This is February 22nd. Worst possible outcome, Joe, you got it up there. Worst possible outcome, industry experts weigh in on DOJ's desire to decouple commissions. And we're not going to talk about rates, and because that would that we don't do that. Everybody commissions. That the only thing we know with commissions is that they are negotiable and should be on both the buyer and seller side. Real estate professionals are concerned about how a changed commission structure could disadvantage first-time home buyers. In early September 2023, Steve Murray, the co-owner of Real Trends Consulting, told HousingWire that he believed this was a possible outcome, that first-time buyers could be affected by this. The outcome the DOJ wants will only reduce costs for sellers, but it's going to put buyers in a hole, Murray said. They have gone through all of this, and it will end up being punitive to buyers. They seem to think that the benefits to sellers, who are the only beneficiaries of this, outweigh all the downside. Under the DOJ's proposal, the practice of cooperative compensation, in which the listing agent makes an offer of compensation to the buyer's agent in the MLS, would be illegal. Preventing the sellers and listing agents from buyer broker commissions would promote greater price competition and innovation in the market for broker services, the DOJ wrote in a filing. Any thoughts or opinions on if the listing broker, if it becomes illegal for them to pay the buyer's agent, for the buyer to have representation out of that listing broker's fee structure, negotiated fee structure? What do you think could be the outcome? And let's look at before you answer, let's look at the poll, because we did a poll earlier. Let's see what everybody says here. 835 votes. Votes are still counting.
I went in and voted 100 times.
You did?
I'm kidding.
What did you pick?
I haven't voted.
So should they be paid by the listing broker, paid by the seller directly?
Remember, you're staying pretty solid from when you were in the lower numbers, like at 400 votes.
That's almost identical.
Yep.
People still believe, regardless of these lawsuits, that the listing broker should be paying out of their commission the fee to the buyer's broker. Do you agree with that?
I agree with the current system, absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Because I think that these decisions that are being made right now are absolutely short-sighted. I think they did not look at history to look back prior to the 1990s when you didn't have buyer's agents. And so you had buyers that were unrepresented, or you had agents that were technically have a fiduciary to the listing side. And what the 90s did was it removed caveat emptor, buyers beware. They actually had someone on their side that had a fiduciary responsibility to take care of them. What I think this is going to do is it's going to set back first-time home buyers by 5 years in their life cycle. And some of the craziness that's going to go on is the lending market is going to try and roll a buyer's agent's commission somehow into the loan costs. And I think that's a terrible idea, because now your loan is at a higher value than the value of the home. You'll have parents gifting money to children to help them buy their first house if they have to pay these commissions. And in the end, all you did is you've now helped the wealthy in this country continue to move forward to buy houses. And the people that aren't as wealthy and maybe don't have parents that can help them, you've just pushed them out of the market. And so, they think that they're doing a gracious act by all these lawsuits to help sellers out, but it's the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is good intentions based.
So let's talk about your experience with buyer's agents. What should buyer's agents be doing to be worth their commissions?
So I think it's a myriad of things.
Yeah.
It starts with a buyer consultation meeting, right? To get to know the family, to figure out all the parameters and criteria that they're looking for in a house. It's a discussion with their loan officer to figure out if the price point that they're looking at truly fits into their budget. And then there's the schoolwork behind going through the MLS and figuring out what parts of the city or the metro fit those needs, understanding where their work locations are going to be, what are the other places that they're going to go to on a regular basis. Maybe they have relatives in the area, so that you're getting proximity right. And then you're starting to get into showings. You're not just someone that's unlocking a door. You're walking people through the house. You're showing them what's good, what's bad. Pointing out stuff in the neighborhood that's good and bad. Giving them all the opportunity to just basically understand the pros and cons of every house. Beyond that, your ass better be at inspections, and you should be ready to advise them on what the severity of certain things are, and do your fiduciary responsibility if you have the opportunity to request repairs to work through that. And another part of a buyer's agent is was talked about earlier by one of your earlier agents that was on. It's having that portfolio of experts that support your business. And so I call them our team. And it's the lenders that we work with. It's the home inspector that we work with. It's
Contractors.
A list of 100 contractors that if we need a specialized look at something during an inspection, I can call someone and they'll be there to look at it in the next couple of days. And then that list also goes to the client after they own the house, so that they have access to a whole group of folks that they can rely on. I think that there is a load of work that as a buyer's agent, if you're experienced, that you should be out there making your money. One of the other articles that you had mentioned on here, it was the Consumer Fed one. They made the comment about maybe a buyer's agent's commission should be based on the agent's experience or the time spent on the transaction. And I think it's kind of ridiculous, in all honesty. It's very hard to summarize those types of things. And so I just think that the system that is currently in place was built for the right reasons. And now we have all these lawsuits that are no longer taking that right reason into account.
You think most of the buyer agents are doing everything that you explained? I mean, I love what you're saying. Do you think they're doing that?
I wish they were, but I know they're not, unfortunately.
Right. So now when we get back to it and we look at why the consumers are so upset, because that's not being done. And I don't know, I think it starts at real estate training. They teach you that you're not meant to be the home inspector or the this, the that. You're only supposed to find a ready, willing, and able buyer to be the procuring cause in the transaction, and that's it. And that's one of my struggles that I have in the business too, because people are actually experiencing harm. This buyer beware, the agency almost seems like, well, what is it anyway? I mean, if we have it and it doesn't really mean anything, or you're not required to actually educate your buyer, what are we doing? And I think that's what's frustrating. And you guys, I already know by talking to you before that you feel a lot of the same way that I do. What is the answer? What is the answer we have now? Because now the DOJ is, and we've just covered that since like 1939 or 1940, they've been doing this, coming into the National Association of Realtors and basically rewriting the framework on how the business is conducted. Why isn't anybody talking about the amount of education that should be required to sell a house? Why are we only focusing in on the aspect of a commission base? I mean, look, we already know that commissions are negotiable. Let's get that out in the open. But what are we doing to say this is what the industry should require for people that sell the largest purchase most people ever make in their life? Why aren't we making that mean something?
Well, it could be increasing the threshold for being able to get into this business. That's one thing that would help. The fact that you can get a license and maybe it's a total of $600 to $700, and it takes you 3 weeks to be able to get into the business. Maybe cost of entry should be higher, or expectation of training should be higher. It's tough. It's tough to say how that could be done because licensing is done at a state level. And so now you're talking about trying to regulate 50 different states on how they,
they seem to be able to do everything else with regulation. I mean, you have the, the governor's office, the DLLR. What's that?
Actually, I'm not a fan of the national regulation piece myself, because the higher the government is, the more they get involved, the more they break things, unfortunately.
Yeah. Coming from an Army intelligence professional.
If you look at the suits, there's a lot of words in there that I think probably shouldn't be in there, where they talk about fixing compensation. And I think it's a fallacy to use that word. And you can put it in a document. You can have journalists say it out loud on whatever talking pieces that they're doing. But I think it's an absolute fallacy to use that term, because it's not what's being done. We don't all meet in a dark room in the back of MLS and everyone get together and go, okay, if I'm on the buy side, I'm doing 3, and if you're on the
well, we don't.
No.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it doesn't happen, but
maybe I'm a bit naive and haven't been in the business long enough. But
I mean, we certainly don't do that. I mean, it's I don't. Well,
it's
anyway.
like also like going through MLS and screening out properties that don't have 2.5% compensation or higher. It's like,
well, let's check this out, right?
Yeah.
Let's check this out. So, and definitely let's not talk about commission rates and stuff like that, but let's check this out.
No, it's just the comments in these.
I hear you. So look, let's talk about limiting access to the properties. Do you feel that if you're not, so do you think that there should be a system in place like the National Association of Realtors that says if you're not a member, you do not have access to the MLS and you do not have access to the properties that have electronic lockbox systems? I mean, what is that?
I think
does that seem fair?
No, I think that's a fallacy also. because we have agents that work rural areas up here that aren't in the Kansas City Association. They want to show a property in our area. If we have an I-box on it, we've actually at times run out to unlock the house for them.
Good luck trying to get a hold of agents on a regular basis or a mass scale to do that. I mean, I can't even get them to call me back when I have a contract for their house. It's like, I'm doing them a favor. I should just put it on a silver platter and, hand deliver it to them. I don't know, man. Jim, I tell you, I don't know, buddy. And it may be different in different states. I mean, maybe, Kansas, you guys are just super nice, which could be. But I could tell you, if you call up and say, hey, can you give me access to your, I'm not an actual realtor and I don't have access to the lockbox. Can you meet me there? Or can you just show my client for me? I mean, these agents go berserk, so I don't know. Let's pull up. I want to pull up another article here from Inman. Again, I subscribe to Inman. So if you guys aren't subscribers, you're not going to be able to see this. But anyway, this is a recent article. NAR breaks silence on DOJ call to decouple commissions. This is recent, the 23rd it came out. And I just want to scroll down because here's a statement from the National Association of Realtors, the spokesperson, Mantle Williams here, says the statement of interest confirms that the DOJ wants to regulate what sellers and their listing agents are allowed to do with their own money and homes. I'm going to think about that again.
The DOJ.
Okay. I don't think that that's what they're saying, but anyway, prohibiting all offers of compensation will harm consumers, including by making it more costly for home buyers to access capable representation and by reducing access to fair housing. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that first statement it's getting at what they're saying. The DOJ may come out and say that it's prohibitive of sellers to pay buyers agent commission.
But they're not saying that. They've been
that's what he's getting at. And he's saying, why is it that a government entity is going to tell a seller what he can do with his or her money on the prohibition piece to pay the buyer's agent commission? I get it. He's rewriting it.
The DOJ, I think, has made it very clear, at least in what I've read, that they don't want the buyers to have to pay their own commission. I think everyone can agree that would be a disaster. I think that what they're trying to get at here, and ultimately what may come out of this, is that, and again, I don't know, I'm just speculating. I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, look, the buyers in New York and a association in New York, as of January 1, came out with this, that the buyer's agent or the buyers have to negotiate their agent's fee directly with the seller. And that we talked about that spawns this whole other conversation of who's more important in the transaction, the listing agent or the buyer's agent. But I think that what they're saying here is that I think that what the sellers have to realize, without the buyers, they ain't got no money.
Yeah.
If there's not a buyer to buy their house, good luck. So I mean, the question comes down to, should prohibiting all offers of compensation will harm consumers. I agree with that. I mean, we're not talking about prohibiting offers of compensation. I think that should be negotiable, and it is. But, I'm just, my question is, when it says capable representation, that's my argument. How will they assure capable representation? Because I think the industry has failed miserably, and brokers have as well. Would you agree with that? Is that a fair statement?
Well, I think the supervision of agents is severely flawed in the industry. We talked about it the other day. You've got brokerages with a supervising broker over 300 or 500 agents. I think it's an absolute travesty, and it does a disservice to our reputation, quite honestly. I think one way of kind of looking at this whole compensation piece of sellers paying buyers agents commissions is you look at it from the context of, so it's a seller's market. And in a seller's market, the seller's got the advantage. And so, let's say you have a multiple offer situation. There's not going to be a single offer in there that's going to win if there is an offer that says you're going to pay X amount to the buyer's agent. That one's going to get put to the side, right? And so that tells us what a seller's market is going to look like in this. So then let's go to the other opposite end. Then now it's a buyer's market. And what's going to happen? Now the buyers have the advantage, right? Multiple offer, well, let's see, you probably wouldn't have multiple offers. But offer comes in, buyers more than likely are all going to ask for the seller to pay for the commission. It just makes no sense. It's going to swing so drastically from.
Well, I think what you just said, which no one's talking about, and you hit the nail on the head, the buyer's market. So people don't ever think that will ever happen again. And if that's the case, it'll be the first time in history. I mean, do people really think it's going to stay a seller's market forever? I mean, there's cycles in real estate, right? We hit these peaks and then we hit troughs. And what you just said is the magic, and that no one's really addressing. You're going to build a system. At least now, the way the system works, it works. Okay, let's talk about negotiations and let's open up communications. But the system works well if it is transparent to both the buyer and the sellers involved. Push the brokers to be more on the disclosure side. Do the education to the buyers and the sellers both, and understand that if you come in and you swing this one way, if you think you're going to be a seller and you're going to win in what you just described, it's not happening. It's not happening. They're not going to win. And and neither will the buyers. So I think having a system that works in a both up and down market is critical. I'm glad that you said that. Yeah. Christina, what do you have to say?
So if we do get to this point, which I'm sure we will, if I'm a listing agent representing a seller and the buyers start going to to me or to the listing agent to help them because they don't want to pay our buyer's agent's fee, I'm not going to be a dual agent and I'm not going to be a transaction broker. That buyer will be unrepresented.
100%. How they do these dual agencies, how an agent can be a dual agent and represent a buyer and a seller, I don't know how that is even allowed. And that's what we're threatening right now. What you just said is what is at risk. I think there's 13 states that offer buyer agency. It's not a whole lot. It's not every state that, or maybe a better way of saying that, there are 13 states that don't permit dual agency within a salesperson, right? The broker can be a dual agent because you have an agent that represents the buyer and an agent that represents the seller. But when an agent is permitted to be a dual agent, that's risky. And what you just said, yeah, who's going to want that? Why would you want the liability of having the buyer come back and say, you didn't represent me right? You really represented the seller more than me. And that can't work.
The seller say that too. The seller could say the same
100%. 100%. You have to pick. Buyers are entitled to representation. We should have the best representation, and there should be there should be more regulations on who can be a real estate agent. Look, If you want to be an electrician, can you just go and wire somebody's house? No, you have to go through a journeyman's process, a plumber, a heating and air contractor. In fact, if you're a heating and air contractor in Maryland and you're in training, you have to have a
Licensed with you.
100%, or those people are entitled to their money back, the clients, right? I mean, but yet we let these agents go and open up doors and walk in and say, "Hey guys, here's the kitchen. Here's the kitchen." Oh, geez, I would have never known. I would have. I mean, the sink, the refrigerator, the cabinets, I wouldn't have figured that out. So that's what we're essentially saying, is that's what we want people showing the house like that, not diving into the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of, the implications of buying a bad house. Anyway, let's answer some questions.
We do have
I'm
some
sure we have
super
some things
chats
for
here.
questions for
I just
Christine
want
and Jim.
to address these really quickly. If a buyer cannot afford to pay a broker, they should not be buying a home. Not being able to afford a broker might be a good way to bring home prices down. Thank you, Scott.
Well, let's address that comment. I mean, you could certainly argue this, Scott. The fact of the matter is, most first-time buyers will not ever be able to pay for representation because they barely have enough money to buy the house. They're doing 3 or 3.5% down. They're getting closing costs help. They're getting programs, first-time buyer programs from the state. We have the Maryland mortgage program here. They're getting part of their student loans paid off here in Maryland. I think we offer $50,000 to pay off up to $50,000 if you buy your first-time buyer. If you make under a certain amount of money, these first-time buyers are not in great shape financially. Many of them. That's why I want to say it was like 40% of the first-time buyers. It may have been more than that in 2021. National Association of Realtors stat said that they could not have bought a home without a gift from a family member. That's a huge percentage.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you start racking up inspections, appraisal costs, closing costs, if you're doing FHA at 3.5, or if you're doing a VA and you've got a funding fee that doesn't roll into the loan and you're going to pay that, you're already 10 plus, and we're going to attack.
Think about this. The buyers are already paying their lenders' fees out of pocket. They're not financing those.
Yeah.
They're coming to the table with that. Oh, you need your down payment plus our money. We get paid. We get paid first. So that would just be another fee on top of these, the buyers. So I don't see it. All right, what else we got?
Yeah, we got another super chat here. And this was when we were back in Florida. But a realtor was hitting my phone up every day. It seemed desperate. Before I even went to go see one property, another realtor lied about the amount of rooms. Desperate much? I think Orlando is slowing. Thank you, Patrick, for that.
Somebody just told me that they had put an offer in on this house, and this is local here in Maryland. These people came into an open house that I had. And they said, they may even be listening now. They said the house, I think, was advertised as a 2-bedroom house. And the offers were coming in, or no offers were coming in, or he put an offer in, and they didn't accept the offer, but they changed the listing to a 3-bedroom house. But it wasn't. And in the remarks, the agent changed it to say, we'll build you the 3rd bedroom. We have a 3-bedroom house that doesn't exist, but before you buy it, if you come and tell us where you want the bedroom, we'll build it out. And
treating advertising.
That's crazy, huh?
That's terrible.
Did have a question here about commissions. Why don't they cap commissions? They do for mortgage brokers.
Well, I don't want to get into that, the actual fee base, because, I mean, theoretically, they do. I mean, commissions are negotiable. You can negotiate your commission. Doesn't mean that the broker is going to accept it, but that's part of the negotiation process. You could say, this is what I want to pay. So
you have houses that sell at lower commissions. Years past, I've seen commissions above what,
no, there's always been discount brokers. So, I mean, it's, and there's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we had another statement here. Bear with me. Whoops. There we go. Oh, no. Hold on. I'm sorry. My screen is frozen. I'm coming. There has to be a better way of compensating agents. Higher home prices have caused, in my view, excessive commissions.
And then there's also, so Michael, we appreciate your comments. You are a big contributor to the comments section on our channel. It's not just agent commissions. Everybody has their hand out. Title insurance, for instance, loan origination fees, inspections, appraisals. There are so many people that have their hand out. So when you look at it collectively, it's a market. And then go beyond the sale, property taxes, reassessments. Maryland had sent something out, I want to say 100 that they missed. I got a letter, 110,000, I think, properties did not receive tax assessment, new tax assessments, increases. And it was like $40 million. I mean, it's whatever the cost was. It was some ridiculous that it would have cost the state of Maryland. They found out about it, and they said, well, we do have provisions in there that so long as we extend the due date, we can be late on sending them out. They're not abated for this tax cycle. But think about that. They base the amount of the sale to achieve their higher property tax value, the assessed value. Everybody has their hand out.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from housing being a basic need. It's almost a luxury. Like, oh, you want a house? You want to live in you don't want to have 4 roommates?
Well,
it's a luxury.
There was I think it might have been a question earlier on about agents on Instagram showing their big lives and the fallacy behind that. And I think there's some truth to that also, that our industry has set us up for failure in making people think that we make ungodly amounts of money, and they have no concept of the expenses that are associated with, running a business, the insurance that we pay, everything associated with it is expensive. And
our National Association of Realtors fees.
What's that?
Our National Association of Realtor fees.
Yes, those two.
Mm-hmm. All right, what else we got? We're getting late.
Mm-hmm. It's almost that time.
That time. Man, I tell you what, we have been burning it here.
Yeah, we've been busy. If a buyer's agent is paid a percentage of the sales price rather than the flat amount or percentage plus some amount, what incentive does the buyer's agent have to get the buyer the best price?
Yeah, again, I mean, there are plenty of people in every industry that have commission breath, and they some will absolutely look at commission amounts over fiduciary. I would like to think that that most don't do that. I don't know that to be true, but I'd like to keep believing in people, that they're a lot more better people than they are the other way around. But Yeah, again, I mean, commissions are negotiable. You just have to, know that you can negotiate your commissions. That is what it's all about. And like I said, there's no standard fee. There's no set fee. You should not buy into that philosophy if you're being told that they're violating the law. If an agent says this is the going rate, they're violating the law. If the agent says the typical this or typical that, it's not. You may read that in a news article, but that's not the way our industry is allowed to operate. They broke that up years ago. So I think that you have to be mindful. You have to understand the worth of the agent. The agent certainly that is going to give you represent you is entitled to make money. I mean, for crying out loud. And let's check in on the poll one last time before we get out of here for tonight. But I mean, whoever says that buyer agents shouldn't get paid, I mean, that's just insanity. 18% not paid at all. Look at that, guys. Here we are, 35% still at the top. They think that things should continue the way that they always have been. We got a super chat that just popped up. Let's
Super
address
cash,
that, and then we'll call it a night, guys. We appreciate you spending your Tuesday night with us, as always. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, consider doing so now. You can find Jim and Christina, as well as the other agents' information, on SachsRealty.com. The links are below in the show notes. And so let's address this.
Thank you, Austin. The government made it so lenders are prohibited from reporting delinquent borrowers on student loans to credit agencies until December. This makes the credit reports, in my opinion, not worth the paper they are printed on. Thoughts?
You guys want to answer that?
I don't know if I want to touch that one.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done is, and I have no problem saying it, I don't believe in bailouts. I think I've been very clear about that, and that includes corporate bailouts. I think that the market should be a free market, a true free market, and that the chips will rise and fall as they do. And, people will be more responsible, more cautious on how they spend their money. One of the problems with student debt and student loans is these universities charge way too much money. Yeah. I don't agree. I mean, I think they're paying for what they need to pay for education is ridiculous. And it never used to be this bad until the government stepped in and said that they would finance all of the student loan debt. And that just was like, gee, thanks. This is great. Now we're paying football coaches $7 million a year to coach a football team at a university. I mean, where are we going with this stuff? And then most of the pressure that we put on our young people, it seems like, Joey's doing really good in math. He should decide, does he want to be an engineer? He needs to take a path to, what do you want to do for a living? What do you want to do when you graduate? You're in 10th grade. You could figure it out at 16. I mean, these kids can't figure it out at 16 years old. So we get them to commit to these colleges for a lot of reasons. Is pressure in itself. If you don't go here, I want to go there, so-and-so is going here. And we're pressuring these kids to go into debt that they will never pay off. They will never pay it off. Now we want to just relieve it. Why? In exchange for what?
A vote.
Votes? Why are we doing that? What are we teaching people? No, we teach people that you have to make a decision. These colleges aren't worth it. I just interviewed an agent. He's fantastic, by the way, in Delaware. And his video is coming out on our new channel, Housing Market Insider, as well as I've interviewed Jim and Christina. Their video will be posting soon. If you haven't checked out our new channel, you can do so. Cruise on over Housing Market Insider on YouTube. Anyway, he has an Ivy League education. I'm going to say he's a real estate agent in Delaware. He said that the Ivy League education is not what made him successful in life. He went to Princeton, and then he went to Harvard Business School. He worked in D.C. He wore a tie. It's not what taught him his success. Boy, can you imagine how expensive that education would be?
Yeah.
So depending on what it is that you want to do for a living, I understand. I'm not downplaying the need for continued education, but it's what we teach ourselves. Not if there was a college that guaranteed that you would be a millionaire when you came out, and I don't even care with Harvard. This guy graduated from Harvard Business School. He's living in Delaware in a condo. He's a real estate agent. God love him. If there was a university that guaranteed you to be a millionaire, you wouldn't be able to get in it. It would be impossible. Did we have another super chat that just popped in?
I don't think so. I think we got it all.
Well, you know, his question about student loans not being reported, the terrible side of that is, so you could help someone buy a house in the next 6 months, forbearance ends, and now they're having to pay that loan, and now their debt to income ratio and their budget is wrecked. You know?
There is a certain individual right now, and many of them that will fall into this, that are accumulating as much debt as they can in order to default. There are people buying cars with zero intentions of paying for them. There are cars driving down the road. These cars don't even have valid registrations. I mean, what's happening right now is insanity.
That's crazy.
Somebody did just slide a super chat in on us. Here we go.
There it is.
Scott's right.
Scott's right. Trim the fat, cut the crap.
There you go. All right. Trim the fat and cut the crap. I think the best quote that I had, who had that? Was that Terry? It said, Obamacare house insurance.
Obamacare house insurance.
That is great.
Yes.
I don't think that's really a thing, but her analogy was pretty neat. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. Christina, Jim, thanks
for having us.
Wrapping up the back end.
Thank you.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for your support of our channel and spending our Tuesday night together. We are blessed to almost be, I am completely flattered and honored that we are almost at 100,000 subscribers.
It's amazing.
That is just, wow.
Amazing.
That's very humbling too.
It's very humbling.
Very humbling. So I'm
so grateful.
We thank you guys for helping us achieve that. It is a fantastic honor to be able to bring you real estate content and finance content from some of the smartest minds, much smarter than me, on our channel. And obviously you guys are enjoying it. So thank you. God bless everybody. And see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.